Welcome. We'll get started shortly. Before we begin, here's how to earn continuing professional education credit for attending this session. There are no polling questions or attendance checks. Instead, you will demonstrate your knowledge by taking a brief multiple-choice quiz using the Earmark app. Visit earmark.app in your web browser. You can also download the mobile app by scanning the QR code on the screen. Log in, or if you're new, create your free account. Be sure to use a valid email address because that's where we'll send your course completion certificates. From the home screen, scroll down to find the course. You can also tap the magnifying glass icon to search for the course. Tap on the course artwork, then the Enroll button. On the Course tab, you'll find the recording and quiz questions. Complete the quiz to earn your CPE certificate. It takes us a few days to create the course on the app, so if you are attending this session live, please wait a few days. We'll email you a link to the course when it is ready. If you have questions or need help, email us at support@earmarkcpe.com. And now, on to the event. Buckle up, accountants. It's time for another Earmark Expo where we are taking the latest accounting tech for a test drive. I'm Blake Oliver, joined as always by David Leary. How are you doing, David?
Good.
David and I are about to floor it with a live demo of a game-changing app, and the timing is perfect given how close we are to the end of the year. David and I will be in the driver's seat, putting this app through its paces and asking the tough questions every accountant wants to know the answers to. And guess what? You are along for the ride. We want you, our live audience, to help us navigate. Ask questions in the chat. We will surface those for Gordon to answer. And this is your chance to see cutting-edge accounting tech in action. You're going to get your questions answered in real time and gain insights that could transform your practice. So take a seat and let's roll with today's Earmark Expo. Over to you, David.
Yeah, and it's that time of the year, Blake. It's the season is about to change, and I'm talking about 1099 season. It's about to start.
January 1099s. I remember it. I remember it like it was just yesterday.
I only do like 3 a year, and I feel like it's more work than it should be. So when you had clients, I don't even know how you can even get them done because you need all this nitpicky stuff, I feel like.
Well, when I had my firm, and actually in I think every firm that I then worked in after that, which was 3 different ones, we used a tool called Track 1099, which I was happy to hear was acquired by Avalara not too long ago. And that is what we're going to get to see today, Avalara 1099 and W9. And Gordon Walsh here is here to showcase it for us. How you doing, Gordon?
Great. Thanks for having me, guys. Excited to be here.
So it's been about 11 months since I last used Track 1099, Avalara 1099. So I'm eager to see how it looks, what's new. I have always found it to be really easy to use, and that, David, is what enabled me to do hundreds of 1099s across, well, probably thousands across hundreds of clients. So eager to dig into it today with you, Gordon.
Yeah, looking forward to it.
So where do we start?
Yeah, that's a great question. This is really our solution and what we believe at Avalara is around this idea of year-round, right? And that's why it's not just Track 1099 anymore. It's Avalara 1099 and W9, right? January 1099 season is really just where we feel the pain of all the things that we've done year-round that maybe didn't get done or were left to January to feel it, right? I have so many conversations these days where people are like, it's January coming up again. I haven't thought about this since last year. And I would maintain we should think about it every day in some small way, not necessarily, January 1099 season, but the things we need to do to make sure 1099 season's an easy one. I liken this so much so to going to the dentist, right? You don't brush your teeth the day before you go to the dentist and assume, hey, I'm going to get in 30 or 40 minutes, get out, no cavities, clean bill of health. No, we have a daily process we use every day of the year. We brush our teeth. And that way, when we get to the dentist, it is a clean bill of health. There is no cavities. It's nice and easy. And so this is the same belief we take into what we do at Avalara. And that's what the product really addresses, is the everyday collection of data from contractors, vendors, suppliers, users, sellers, whatever your potential 1099able people or companies are, by electronically collecting their W-9s and doing more with the W-9 in that moment before first payment's ever been made. And then having that translate into a streamlined system for when we need to do the 1099s at year end.
Yeah, that was always my big pain, was time to do 1099s. Oh, wait, we don't have W-9s from a lot of our vendors, especially the new ones. We say every year we're going to require a W-9 before we make a payment, but then somehow that just doesn't happen, maybe because it's difficult. We have some manual process of collecting them, and then they don't get put into the right place. So we don't have them anyway. We have to go ask for them again.
Yeah. Common problem amongst business owners and accounting firms alike, whether it is that. And because at the end of the day, as an accountant, it's not fun for you to go to your clients and have to go after them for a W-9. In the same way, it's not fun for your client to go after those vendors asking for that W-9. And at the end of the day, I think people sometimes lose sight of a W-9 and its importance. Like, that is the document that establishes, one, whether you even need to get a 1099 based on the tax classification, and two, if there's any withholding, which may trump all assumptions about whether we need a 1099 based on thresholds, income thresholds, or tax classification. That document is pretty important. And beyond that, it's not even an IRS rule that says you need a W-9 before you make payment. It's a federal law that says, hey, W-9 should be collected before you make a first payment, or you should be withholding 24% for that backup tax before you ever do anything else. So, we want to try to make that easy. And I think a lot of times it is, Blake, you're spot on. If you don't have the tools, you're not going to do it, right? You don't build a house because you own a handsaw and a hammer. You build a house because you have a circular saw and a nail gun. Without the right tools, you can't be expected to do this stuff well. And so again, that's where we hope we can come into play and provide a tool that makes it easy to collect these W-9s and have them at the time when we need them most.
So outside of tools, I assume this is mostly just done via emails. You email people, send me this back. They send you an attachment.
All the time. That is 9 out of 10 conversations I have is that W-9s are typically handled in that sense of, we send an email, we get an email back. That email just has a PDF of a W-9, sometimes handwritten, sometimes not filled out all the way. And then we take that and transcribe that or do something with it. And along the way, sometimes just kind of cross our fingers and hope, right? I always, again, I kind of think about it and go, hey, this is a business you're about to work with. You're going to pay them, whether it's a small sum or a large sum of money. And if they hand you a document that is handwritten and somewhat filled out, I don't know about you, but there's no other place in my life in business anywhere where I'm giving handwritten documents to people and expecting to do business with them.
Good point.
So I'm eager to see how this works. Like, where do we start with? Do we start with collecting W-9s, the 1099s? Because that seems to be like the two areas we've got, right?
Yep. You can see right here on the screen, on our home screen, we have both tiles, the W-9 and the 1099. And you're spot on. We start with W-9 because that's our everyday driver. That's the tool we use every day to be able to collect and sort these things out. So when I click in there, you'll see I have this tab now that says all companies. And this is important for the accounting community out there, because you're not just going to do this for one client. There are potentially tens, hundreds, or thousands of clients that you've got, and that this may be a service or an offering that makes sense for them. And so we want to make sure organizationally that's easy to accomplish. And so on my screen, you can see I've got 2 companies listed right now, and I have 2 groups. We give that organizational structure there. So you have options, whether you want to group it by partner, by business unit, by tax department, and then enable an unlimited number of users to be able to be assigned to groups or to these different companies so that only the correct access level is given to each and every user within our system. So important to understand that there is organizational structure here to make life easier for everyone. But it all starts from a basic level of, I need to get this W-9. And again, not asking for a big change from people. Instead of going to your email, come here, request a form. And I do want to always preface this, that we use the term W-9 and 1099 as a generic coverall. But at Avalara, we also can help businesses collect their W-4s and the international W-8 series in case they have any of those international contractors or things that they may have to issue a 1042S for. Same is true on the 1099 side. We actually will help with over 40 different year-end filing forms, information returns, including the entire 1099 series. So I simply pick which type of form I want, can enter a vendor name and an email, and send that request off. That's going to initiate an email to that vendor, and it's going to ask them to click a link to get to our W-9. That W-9 that we've built is, we want to make it as simple as possible. So I have the worst demo account names ever. I should really update these to be something maybe a little more realistic. But the company name that would request this shows up here. The individual recipient, the vendor, the company that I sent it to shows up here. My support email for whatever email address I want shows up. But really what we've taken them to is a form W-9 alternate that we built with the feedback of tons and tons of recipients through trial and error to make this easier to fill out, right? This whole W-9 1099 world is such a catch-22. It's such a catch-22 because at the end of the day, the IRS says, hey, we need these vendors, these contractors to fill this form out. But business owner, don't tell them how. They need to figure it out on their own. But if they get it wrong, we're coming after you. And that makes so much sense. It never adds up completely on my end. So as much as we'd love to help, say, a single member LLC, probably the most confused type of tax classification standpoint when it comes to filling out these new, the March reissue of the W-9, we want to just help them along and tell them, look, it's about where are you filing these taxes at the end of the day? Is it who's 1040? Is it your business? Is it you? Should this be your social security number? Should you be putting individual, sole proprietor? We're not allowed to say all that, or we're not supposed to. So at the end of the day, whatever we can do on our form to help nudge them in the right direction without leading the witness too much, and still have that IRS approval, we want to do. So take, for example, right here.
So this form itself, it looks like my gut would have been, I get here, there's a place for me to upload my existing W-9, but from listening to what you just said, most people might not even have that filled out properly. So you're going to drive them down, lack of a better word, a wizard to make sure it's done properly.
Absolutely. That's spot on. Yep. And so that's said so well, David. I think, again, it starts right off the top where we immediately, this is the box that I think every person watching this call has ever seen a W-9 since this March 2024 revision knows the box I'm talking about. The box where we select our tax classification, tiny little boxes with check marks. We have to then, if you're an LLC, write S, P, or C. It is the box of confusion, as it were. And so we found that getting rid of checkboxes, making a drop down, and using kind of basic deduction skills, people can answer this easier. Like that single member LLC. Well, I don't have LLC as a sole proprietor listed as an option. So it's going to cause that single member LLC to pause for a minute and reflect and maybe reread directions or look up some insight, whether it's on Google or calling their accountant and asking for help. But immediately that slows them down and says, look, I'm not a C Corp. I'm not an S Corp. I don't have a partner. So what am I supposed to do? Well, now it might, help point them in that right direction somewhat better. So little things like that, to gain hopefully a more accurately filled out W-9 at the end of the day. And that's all we're trying to do is expedite this for both our vendors, our contractors, and for the businesses that we support. So as I scroll a little further, you'll see, again, we're just collecting the same things, but in a little bit more visually easy to look at format: our address, our email, tax ID numbers, and then they certify that this all looks good, and we do gather a live signature, which I love because now we have all of this on not just as data in the system, but we will put all this, transcribe it to a signed copy of a W-9, which are fully IRS auditable. So you'll have access to all of those PDFs going forward. Now, this is where it stopped. I still love this tool. We've standardized the process. We've removed the ability for our contractors or vendors to give us handwritten, where sometimes we can't even read what the handwriting says. W-9s in that way. We've removed the ability for them to submit a W-9 that is only partially filled out or missing a box. We've removed any type of disorganization where I email them and I have it in this folder here, and then the next one I forgot what folder it was in, so I just left it in my inbox, and then the next one it's here and it's there, and we've centralized the location and given access potentially to additional people that might have be able to help us in the 1099 or tax compliance realm as we go forward. I would love this if it stopped there, but it gets better, right? It's wait, there's more. The first function that I love in this tool after this portion is that the IRS mandates that if you want to electronically deliver a 1099 at year end, you have to gain consent from the recipient ahead of time. You can't just take a PDF and email it or put it in a portal if you have a website or something and have that be it, right? It's either you get consent and you can give it to them electronically, or you have to mail it, physically mail it via snail mail out to the recipients. Well, that can be tricky if you wait till January. Now we're trying to rush through and deal with all the other things that January brings and somehow get consent so we can save on the mailing, unless you get consent when you're onboarding. So we ask that question and get that consent during onboarding. So now we know throughout the entire year, when we get to year end, we can simply look at a report and see, well, these are people who said it's okay that they consent to electronic delivery, which really helps me in a lot of ways. I can save a ton of money. Mailing is typically always the most expensive part of doing 1099s. So now I can save the cost of mailing. I can save the liability. You can't lose something in the mail or get it as return to sender mail if you don't put it in the mail. That's a huge benefit. And on top of that, this opens your deadlines, right? You could submit this through our system, a 1099 at 10:45 at night on January 31st. We're still going to file it with the IRS in the States, and the email is going to go out. And since you already have consent, you're not worried whether they open that in January, February, March, or April. As long as you have consent and you've emailed it by the end of the day on the 31st, you're in the clear. So you've opened that deadline of getting physical mail out the door postmark by giving yourself this email tool.
Got it. That's
only the first part of what I love. The second part that I love, and probably my favorite function in the entire tool, is that when the recipient clicks sign and continue, it's going to do a live TIN match with the IRS. A live TIN match. So now we're not waiting to take the tax identification information from a W-9 and match it against what the IRS has on file at year end, or not doing it at all. Which, again, by not doing it or waiting, you open yourself up to those dreaded CP 2100A notices, otherwise known as a B notice to people. That's that notice that comes typically in October, the year after, comes in the mail from the IRS saying, hey, you submitted 1099s. We looked into it. We don't know who this person is that you said owes us tax money. And so we're coming back to you because you're the source of it all. And you've got two options. Either A, get us the right W-9 or taxpayer information so that we can figure out and collect the tax money based on this 1099 from the right recipient. Or, worst case, you owe us the taxes on this 1099. And it's a standard backup tax withholding rate at the IRS of 24%. So getting one of those notices is either a bunch of work, tracking down the right person, getting them connected and getting all that information to the IRS, or it's an expensive, potentially very expensive mismatch of just not having the right social security number or the right name on a 1099. So TIN matching is key to making sure that when you file a 1099 at year end, that you've got it all correct and matched with the IRS so that you're not getting those notices and you're being preventative of all the work or the fees and fines that can come if you don't get it right.
Yeah. If you every time you receive a W-9, you check it right away, and it reduces a bunch of risk and headache that may come in the future.
Exactly. It's a preventative measure, right? It's the same idea of there's probably not too many people out there who own a home without homeowners insurance. I don't expect that my house is going to burn down or that it's going to flood. I live in Minnesota. I hope it sure doesn't flood and flood my house out, but I still pay for homeowners insurance in case something happens, right? So it's a preventative measure to make sure that you're in the clear and you're taking care of that. Now, it's not to say that many tools out there don't have TIN matching built in, right? This is nothing new. We're not doing anything revolutionary by TIN matching. Our 1099 tool as well, when I show you that, we do a TIN match in that process as well, right? When you're uploading your data to be able to do the 1099 in January. But if you think about it, if your tool only does a TIN match at the end of December or the beginning of January, right, when you know what you're doing to submit your 1099s, it doesn't give you much of a window. When the 31st is the deadline to submit and to get these things out, if you don't have that data to say January 10th, January 12th, January 15th, and you've got some mismatches on that TIN match, now you got to hope that those vendors and contractors answer their phone or their emails and you can quickly get the right information so you can file on time. Using a tool like this, it might be March, might be the only time you're going to work with that contractor all year. Well, they're eager to get their payment for the work they're doing. And if you hold that and say, look, I need a TIN matched W-9 before I make payment, they're going to work with you a lot
That's
more,
a good strategy.
frequently and much easier right then in the moment than waiting several months into the end of the year.
Got it. So after they hit sign and continue, is there some UI or alert you get on your side in the app?
So it goes even further than that. We don't even return the result to the client. We return the results of that TIN match live in that moment to the recipient who just filled this out. So if it matches, it will say, great success, right? Good for you, and let them move on. If it doesn't match, they're going to get something that pulls up and looks like this. That says, according to the IRS, your info doesn't match. We need you to fix it. Go back in, revise your form. So when they click that, it takes them straight back to this form they already filled out, where they can scroll up and see, oh, you know what? Those darn thumbs, they're not fingers, right? I just mistyped my social security number. Or they scroll up and see, well, I didn't know what to do. I clicked this and I'm not that. And so now I better fix it, right? Whatever their mistake is, they can fix it and then resubmit to us up to 3 times to get this right.
And by pushing that back to the vendor, my client and me and my team at my firm don't have to do this dance.
You're not wasting your precious hours and time emailing, waiting a week, not getting a response, emailing again, waiting a couple days, getting the W-9 finally and going, this is the same one you sent us the first time. This doesn't help. So absolutely, huge time saver. And hopefully we're getting the little things because they're the ones who own the business. I don't know what your situation is necessarily as a business owner. Now I may work with you and go, I've heard great things about your marketing or the plumbing or the whatever whatever service you're providing to me, but it doesn't mean I understand anything about the background of your business. So when I have the actual business owner, who is the person who initially probably formed the business via the IRS, they're probably going to be able to sort through these mistakes or these misunderstandings a lot easier than I am. Now, if I flip back to where our clients and our accountants live, all of that data is going to filter right in to a dashboard where I can see all of this information in an easy to see chart. I can see the vendor's name, the type of form. We automate checking the box on the first of 2 audits that anybody should be doing on a 1099 NEC or miscellaneous, right? Audit number 1, are they incorporated? Are they the right tax classification to even need to get a 1099? Obviously, there's our outliers, doctors and lawyers and settlement payments and things where they could be incorporated and still need a 1099. But for 99.9% of situations, And then audit number 2, did they meet the thresholds? Depending on, right, is it $600? Is it a K with $5,000? Is it an interest or something with or a royalty payment at $10? That's something that we would determine, in an AP system. But we are automating checking the box for whether they even need to issue a 1099 based on their entity classification. So we've put that in place, and now we can see, did we gain consent-free delivery? Did our TIN match? And then the date of last update. And I love to show as we make that comparison that we can easily download these W-9s. But if you look at what an actual W-9 looks like, I feel like what I was just showing you is a lot easier to look at than this bad boy is.
Yep.
But we do have them in place with the signature dated and ready to go should we ever need it in the future. So we have this great dashboard, and beyond having a centralized location to access all this information, it also is living and breathing in that I may see these individuals that I requested a W-9 from and haven't gotten it. I can simply click in and resend that request as many times as I need to. Or for those that have filled it out, maybe I get a call from Brandon here and he says, hey, I reincorporated or I changed my address. Well, instead of sending me a new W-9, I'm going to come in here and request an update. He's going to get an email. And when he fills this out again, any of his changed data is going to just overwrite on his current W-9 in my system, unless it was a reincorporation where he gets a new TIN number in which we would create a whole new W-9. So this is, again, it's manipulable. It's living and breathing centralized system that we now have this data. We can feel confident in every payment we make. We're not worried about a B notice or having to pay 24% back taxes. We're not worried that this is going to create a headache for us in January or October the following year. This just gave us a ton of confidence and puts it in one place. So when we do get to January, this just got a lot easier. And when I say easier, I mean a good amount easier, because the great part is I only have to click a single button in January to transfer all of this W-9 data straight onto the 1099s. All I need now is to get the numbers of how much we paid them, add that to the form, and we're good to go.
So when it's through the self-serve for the vendor, you're having everything but the actual transaction amounts collected or provided by them, and
correct,
and filtered through Avalara's machine, right, for the checking and stuff. Got it.
Yeah. So really, when you think about a 1099, now we transition to January, 80% of the form is filled out. I just need to know how much do we pay him for box 1 of the NEC, or how much was the rent in the miscellaneous, or you just need to get the numbers, which is going to, again, come from your AP or your ERP, or again, reaching out to our clients and saying, hey, now really all I need is who was it and what was the total that you paid them. I don't need, because now that brings into question, what's the next piece of this puzzle? If you're an accountant and you've got tons of clients, how are you normally collecting all of this data? And how easy is it for a client? If we send a spreadsheet that probably looks something like this, we send something like this to our client and say, hey, I need you to fill this out for every 1099 you, or every person you paid, every W-9. Who's to say you're getting that back before January 28th or 29th, right? This isn't what they got into business to sell their widget or their service for. So you may have, it's like pulling teeth to get something like this sent back, where if I just said, hey, all I want you to do is tell me how much did you pay them and what was their name, I'm probably more apt to get that back, because honestly, I don't want you telling me, Tommy's Tire Shop. I want to, because if it's Tommy's Tire Shop, it's probably not even his legal name. It's probably the DBA. And if I file that 1099, putting in the DBA based on your word, business owner, I'm going to get a rejection. I want the legal name. I want what he filled out when he started Tommy's Tire Shops, 10 years ago on the IRS website. I want the Tommy H.B. Smith Jr. III Tire Professionals of America, LLC, that the IRS knows him at, so that I don't get that TIN mismatch, right? So I would have all that because I already have the TIN matched W-9s in my system. I don't need to know anything besides how much you paid them from my client now. So as I transition over here to the 1099 side of the engine, I've got, again, all of my clients listed out. Everything is ready to go. Now I can click in and see in my unscheduled tab all of my recipients, all those vendors showing up here, where we can simply add in how much they made, or using bulk import tools, we can get basic templates or some integrations to a couple of the major AP softwares out there can feed us the information in order to inform these, the numbers that go on to the 1099s.
So you could pull, I'm assuming, from the GLs as well, so QuickBooks, Zeros, Intacts,
Yep.
NetSuites. Okay.
Yep. And then we try to make it, again, very visually easy with color coding. Things like red means, stoplight. Red means stop. You've got an issue, we can't file. Yellow means we can e-file, but we don't have an email address, so we'd have to do physical mail. And it's 2024, turning into 2025. We want to be able to, do as much electronically and off of paper as possible, right? Where then green means we can e-file, and we also can e-deliver this for somebody. So we make it all very easy. We can click in and make it very easy to edit and change information as well, to make sure that everything looks good, and that we can then start scheduling the filing. This is great. One of my favorite things is that I have the window is open now. We open our window in November to start filing for that upcoming January. So a lot of our accounting partners will either have some clients that have their data done for the year and they can start putting it in now, or they may not know the totals, but they may want to just start moving with address verification or a year-end TIN match that's included in the service. So you can come in here as early as November, but schedule the filing to be anytime you want in January. Now, the IRS closes their 1099 filing window from the end of November to the middle of January. So you couldn't choose to file on January 6th because the IRS isn't open to take 1099 filings on January 6th. But we could say maybe we want to file on the 20th. What will happen the day you submit is we will do an address verification through the United States Postal Service and return those results to you so you can minimize any return to sender mail in the physical mail. And we'll do one more bulk TIN match. And I love this in conjunction with that W-9 tool, because now we have a safety net. It's that last line of defense to say, hey, it's year end. Has anybody updated their information with the IRS, any of these vendors, but didn't tell us, and now we can catch it. We also give our clients the ability, if they have their email addresses, to send out their email to attempt to get feedback from a 1099 earlier than they file. So we just said we're going to file on the 20th. Maybe I want to send out my emails on the 6th. We look at the calendar. That's effectively, I get 2 weeks that I could send these, have them emailed to the recipients. They could open that email, look at it, and provide me feedback that might say, I changed my name. I moved. I reincorporated. Forgot to tell you. That number is wrong. That's not how much you paid me. And give me that feedback. And now I can update that in my system. And it's just in rough draft status. It's not been filed. This doesn't mean you're doing a correction. It just means you're changing it before you ever file. So really helpful tools to minimize the mistakes that get filed to the IRS and then have to be dealt with at a cost of a fee or a fine down the road.
Does Avalara, do you have any, what's the ratios on average? Hey, based on history, for every 100 1099s you file, 3 are usually wrong. And it can be prevented if you do some of these earlier in the funnel steps.
Yeah. Well, I don't know that I have a specific number, but I can tell you, again, as somebody who talks to multiple business owners, from small businesses that are doing, less than $1 million in revenue, through Fortune 100 companies doing tens of billions and hundreds of billions of dollars in revenue, that I rarely ever talk to a business owner where they don't have B notices or return to sender mail or have to make a number of corrections. And sometimes it's a smaller business that maybe only files a few, 20 or 30 1099s. And so they have 1 or 2 corrections in a year. But I've also talked to plenty of businesses that are doing 50, 70, 100, 1,000, depending on the size of the company, corrections. And again, the IRS, it's free for me. If you want to do a correction in my system, it doesn't cost a darn thing, but it's not free with the IRS.
Makes sense.
So once we're able to schedule and we're moving forward, I'm going to jump to a little bit of a different view here so I can show you what it looks like once things have been scheduled. Now I can keep up and track from a home screen, again, stoplight system, what's going on in my January. Again, stoplight, green means go. Everything's good. Keep on moving. Yellow means, hey, slow down a minute. Let's take a look and make a decision, because it at some point here in the near future, it's either going to go green or it's going to go red, and we better keep our eye on it. Red means stop. Your hair is on fire. You need to deal with this problem immediately. So we give you this on your main screen after you filed, so that you can make sure, clear the red, keep the red off the screen, and life will be good from a filing standpoint.
So this is, each row here is the business, and then these are all the forms they're filing, and then all the different places it's being filed and what the statuses are.
Correct. Yep. This is your status, kind of January status dashboard, labeled out by each client. Yep. So when I jump in, all that work I was doing before was on my unscheduled tab. So now that I've scheduled the filing, I want to look real quick. My address verification, we give you all those results. The box that matters is this yellow one, cleverly made yellow, the same color as a return to sender sticker. My developers love that one. They laugh every time. The great part here is you can edit these and save and recheck them as much as you want, with the goal of removing as many as you can so that you get fewer return to sender letters for anything that you mail out. So this is a really neat tool to be able to help you if you are doing physical mail, to make sure that you're not having to spend extra money resending a 1099 out because it wasn't able to reach the recipient in the first place. As I said, this is our second, if we're using the W9 tool, this is our second TIN match results. So when we look at the failure report, our goal for using W9 is that there's next to nothing here, which is about accurate with most of our clients that have W9. They find that this is a very, very, very small percentage of the overall, because they've been doing that live TIN matching throughout the year. But again, it is nice to have, because now we know if anybody made a change throughout the year, and we can catch it because they may have forgotten to tell us. Now that I've scheduled, everything moves to my scheduled and sent tab. And I can keep track of the details of not just the company now, as we saw on the last dashboard, but the individual recipients and their status, from postal mail, when things get mailed or scheduled for physical mail, our electronic delivery, once I emailed it, once they've opened and accepted, and then the IRS status of dates I still can manipulate because they're in the future, or that they've been accepted, rejected, or still in transit to the IRS. And the same is true on this tab with the state, where it breaks it down by state, and it shows us exactly what's going on with the state filings. This can be such an unsung hero of the software, because every state has its own rules. And every single year we have conversations with all 50 states to make sure that our system is up to date, up to par. And we know all those rules and automate them. So as soon as you input in that user's W-9 data, we can now automate whether a 1099 needs to be filed with the state or not, and then automate the sending of that.
And you're showing the status for each form, for each recipient on that form.
Correct. State by state. So you can see all the states and the type of form listed out on this side. Anytime an issue comes up, it goes to red. Red is kind of the evil color on our site. It usually means you need to deal with a problem, but we don't expect you. I mean, if you've got tons of clients, and maybe one of your clients is huge, they've got 4,000, 5,000 forms, we don't expect you to go scrolling. So we put them client by client up on their own tab. And if you remember back on our main dashboard, that's the hair is on fire situation. You'll see that right when you log in on the client level, and that way you know something is going on. Corrections, something no one ever wants to do, but everybody seems to have to do. when you've already made a filing with the IRS, but then you realize something about it was wrong and you need to change it. Corrections in our system, we have taken the pain out of it. The first part we've done, they're free. You don't have to pay us ever to do a correction in our system. If you make a correction, you can see right here under my IRS status that I've made a correction. So you can keep track of where have I made corrections, who have I made it to. But I think maybe even better than it being free, which is, a lot of people's top 5 favorite words of all time, is that it is easy. That's usually up there in that top 5 as well, favorite words. To make a correction, all I need to do is click into the actual recipient. All of the boxes on their 1099 here are editable. I just make whatever change I need, click save, and it automatically will file the correction with the state and the IRS. And that's it. That's how easy it is to make a correction in our system.
That is really nice. I've had to do these manually, and it is a huge pain. So it's really nice that you've included that.
Yes. Yeah. It's I don't have a ton of experience in every single software out there, but we constantly have, that when I get to this part of the demo, people light up and they said, "Oh, that looks so easy. That looks like it'll just be, a
You
minute."
just make the change and hit
out.
submit. You don't have to provide an explanation. It just goes in and revises it at the
automatic.
side.
Yep. Exactly.
And the recipient gets a new copy as well.
Sent out the say whatever method you chose the first round, it will send it the same way on the correction.
Got it.
Yep. I do love also that oftentimes I cannot imagine a world in which in June or July we're not getting calls where somebody says, "Hey Blake, David, I lost my 1099. Could you send me another one?" I don't trust that will ever happen, that will ever stop. So we've made that the access to this so easy, because I think so many people get their 1099s done by some service or somewhere, and then they download them and they save them in this giant PDF. And then when somebody calls and says, "I need a new copy," they go and they sort and they control F it and find it, and then they save and print to PDF the one page of the document that they need, and they save that to its own file, and they attach it to an email, and they shoot it out, or they print it, and I'm exhausted. And it's again, this is so silly because there's no revenue in it. This doesn't help my business, this doesn't help my bottom line, and it's going to take me 15 or 20 minutes, and the liability doesn't go away. Instead, I have a search bar. Notice I'm just in the system. I'm not in an actual client record.
It's like a global search. It's a global
search. I search a name and it can be found regardless of what client it's in. It will say the form type and the client name. But now when Dr. Melanie Von Ruden calls and says, "Hey, I need a new 1099, I can say, "Hey, Doc, real quick, while I've got you on the phone, can I verify your email? Is it still, it's still the same? Hey, great. Open that email real quick. Click. See that email I just sent? There's your 1099. Okay, bye-bye." Right? And so in a matter of 15 seconds, 20 seconds on the phone, I don't have to save all this outside of a secure system. It can be stored right here, and I can simply get these back out to people, no problem, within a matter of seconds. Now, if I want to download all this, I absolutely can, and we've made it a one-click situation where I've got this share this file because, hey, we might need this to go to our client. They may want all of this access. Well, type in an email address and click send, and we'll send them a secure link that they can then download all of the different versions of redacted TIN numbers showing a CSV of this information, a copy of a 1096, even though they don't need it to file electronically, but maybe their workers' comp audit will require it. Now they've got it, right? So we can simply, as soon as we're done, share this with our clients and do it in a secure way. So we're not just emailing these things over unsecure, emails. And they've got all the access to the information like we do as well. And if I scroll back here, you'll see I've been jumping between 2023 and 2024, but we do store 5 years of historical data on the 1099 side for our clients. And you can go back to prior years to make new submissions if you accidentally forgot one or two. And you can make corrections in prior years as well on the system. So it really is meant to be an all-encompassing from start to finish. The only part it doesn't do is payment. Do that through your AP, your ERP, you're writing a check. But when we get to end of year, we've got all the data ready. We're streamlined. And anytime something comes up, you've got this full slate of tools, dashboards, statuses to keep you updated so you're not worried, am I going to get a letter from the IRS 10 months down the road?
Yeah, because basically what I'm getting here is I'm getting the repository, I'm getting workflow, I'm getting accuracy, and I don't have to go invent these systems myself. It's all baked in to the product. The only workflow part, I guess, you don't have, because you suggested this, don't pay them until they give you the filled out W-9. What suggestions do you have for me to keep track in my accounting system if I should pay them or not? Like how are people managing that part of the workflow?
Sure. So the good part is, if I go back to my W-9 side, is that we do have this option that whenever a new form comes in, it will email you. You can get an email and be notified, hey, this came in, here's the client or the individual recipient name, did it TIN match or not? We typically say when that happens, you see it TIN matched. A lot of these systems will have a spot that's kind of like a note or a checkbox to say, everything is good, right? Check the box to release for payment. And so we typically look at it and say, well, the first time, you want to do a quick check in an AP system and look and say, if there isn't payment, or if there isn't a W-9, a form, which again, I can so very easily download the W-9 and store that in a vendor record within an AP or ERP system. Yep. And so if that's not there, it means process-wise, we don't have it yet. Don't make payment. Or like I said, a lot of our clients will go out and they will have like a customizable field where it says, check this box. And so it's just a quick check to look at the vendor profile and go, is the box checked that the TIN match is complete? And if not, don't do it. Or it's a simple log into our system and search a vendor's name and look real quick. Do I have a TIN matched, W-9 to make sure that I feel confident in payment?
Yeah. So if it's the first, there's never been a payment ever, go look in the 1099 product first. Makes sense.
Yep. Absolutely. So again, that's kind of the W-9 through 1099 complete tour. It is, I get done with these demos and sometimes think, well, if it felt too easy, but that's the goal, right? It should be very self-explanatory, very intuitive. You shouldn't have to go searching for this bell or that whistle or, how does the tool work? It should be very much laid out in front of you. Something where anybody who knows how to use basic technology this day and age can click through, find what they need, and automatically get to where they need to go. And hopefully we feel like we've achieved that. And we do have what we feel like is a pretty outrageous NPS score of a 79 on this product that we're really proud of because of how easy our clients and people feel like it is to use.
Can you show so obviously you can import data through CSV files, things like that, but how do you connect if I want to connect this to my QuickBooks or an accounting system? Can you kind of show what those features are?
It is as simple as moving to import data. This is one area where we are continuously improving. The best part about Avalara is when they know that there is something that needs improvement, we will pour into that to make it the best in class for our clients. And so we've actually tripled the size of our developer team over the last few months, tripled, so that we can continuously improve. And one of those improvements is to make more and more APIs to make direct connections to more and more ERPs and AP and payment systems so that the data can flow back and forth easier. So we're increasing the list all the time, but QuickBooks was one you used. We give instructions on any of these. But it is simple as being able to kind of move through and make a direct connection where it will just jump in, look at the data, connect. Do we need this as an NEC or miscellaneous? Look at the totals, and then be able to directly pull this in to inform our systems.
Got it.
Yeah.
What about price? So how is this priced? Is it priced differently for clients and firms?
Yeah, we have at Avalara, we do have a team of people that directly work with our accounting partners. They are trained and more literate, I would say, than the average bear in the world of accounting and the things that accountants go through that not in everyday business goes through. And they also have specialized tools and products that we sell that are built for the accounting community specifically to help be able to manage all of the things we do at Avalara, from 1099 to sales and use tax for their clients. And so they do have specialized pricing typically that is directly for our accountants. But the pricing from a basic high level is built around the total number of forms. We don't care if you have 3 clients in the system or you have 3,000 clients. And we've got plenty of accounting partners that have 3 and plenty that have several thousand. We don't charge for the number of users or the number of clients. Our system is priced only off of how many W-9s do you want to store in the system, how many year-end information returns are you going to file. That total number is built into a tier-based system, where as the tiers go up, it's an economy of scale, the price per form goes down. So at the most basic level, a couple of bucks per form, all the way up to our biggest clients that are paying, cents, a handful of cents per form based on their total volumes.
And that pricing doesn't matter if it's e-filed or physical mail?
Physical mail, everything that I've shown you outside of physical mail would be included. So address verification, TIN matching, e-filing with the states, e-filing with the federal government. All the tools that we've talked about are included outside of physical mail. Our goal ultimately in utilizing the W-9 tool and gaining consent as early as we can, our goal is to help businesses reduce their physical mailing so it costs them less. And it's something that they don't have to worry about the liability for. So if we need to do physical mailing, there is an additional per form cost for that. But again, our goal is always to say, how many of these bad boys can we send out via email, or can we use an API to download to a portal for you so that we can get those out electronically and save the time and the headache.
Yeah, this is great. I mean, I remember back in the day doing tech support for QuickBooks, and people had those multi-page forms, and you have to line them up. And because it wasn't as wide as a regular sheet of paper, they have to readjust their whole entire printer to get those daisy wheels to pull that paper through. So this is a much better process for sure.
Those are my favorite calls, when the IT guy is on the call too, and he's just shaking his fist and celebrating because he doesn't have to spend 13 hours in January helping format the printers to get them to work anymore for the 1099 season.
Got it. And Blake, did you have any more questions?
No, I mean, this is fantastic. Like I said, I've been using Track 1099 ever since I moved away from paper for doing this. So it's awesome to see Avalara continuing to develop it and improve it. I have not tried the W9 collection feature. I think I'm going to give it a shot this year. That looks really great. So thank you for showing this to us, Gordon. Appreciate it.
Absolutely.
Oh. All right. Well, if that's it, then we'll go ahead and play a quick video that lets everyone know how they can earn CPE for attending today. Thank you all for joining us. Thank you, Gordon. Thanks, David, and hope to see you all on a future Earmark Expo. Today's event has ended. To earn CPE, go to earmark.app or scan the QR code on the screen. Then log in or create your free account. Search for the course by tapping on the magnifying glass icon on the home screen and then entering the name of this event. It takes a few days to make the course, so if you're attending this event live, keep an eye out for an email letting you know when the course is available. Pass the quiz to earn your CPE, then tap the button to email yourself a certificate. Stay tuned for more events from Earmark. Thanks for joining us, and we hope to see you again soon.